Closing arguments today in the Delphi double murder trial, and the suspect's fate is now in the hands of the jury. Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Coneybear. Two very different stories from prosecutors and Richard Allen's defense team today, and jurors are now trying to decide which one to believe. ABC 57's Annie Kate has been covering the testimony every step of the way. She's live at the Carroll County Courthouse in Delphi for us right now. Annie?
Yeah, Brian, you said it yourself. Richard Allen's fate is now in the hands of the jury. Deliberations have started. I cannot believe we are already here. Now, we know that they were given until about 4 p.m. today to deliberate, but we also know that they left at about 3:30. So no decisions have been made yet. They'll pick back up deliberating tomorrow morning starting at 9. But of course, we got to go through closing arguments first. And I'm going to start with the prosecution. It took Prosecuting Attorney Nick McLeland just 58 minutes to make his closing argument. Check it out.
February 13th is a day Delphi will never forget. Words from Carroll County Prosecutor Nick McLeland in his closing argument in the trial of Richard Allen, saying the state has proven that Allen is Bridge Guy. This man, who was captured on 14-year-old Liberty German's cell phone on February 13th, 2017, before German and her best friend, 13-year-old Abigail Williams, were brutally murdered. McLeland said, if we could find Bridge Guy, we could find the killer. He played the full, enhanced, now infamous Down the Hill video for the jury once again. Allen was wearing a similar outfit to Bridge Guy. He shared this with police, and witnesses plus surveillance footage corroborate that Allen was on the trails between 1:30 and 3:30 that afternoon. Allen's Google search history from the weeks following the murders: Delphi IN News, should I die now? The cartridge found at the crime scene that Indiana State Police technicians determined came from Allen's Sig Sauer handgun. And let's not forget Allen's own confessions. He said he used a box cutter, dumping it in a dumpster at the CVS where he worked. He said he wanted to rape the girls, forcing them down the hill, but got spooked by a passing white van and slashed their throats. Prison calls were again played for the jury. McLeland ended his closing by saying, quote, now all the pieces are clear. All the pieces are together. Richard Allen is the Bridge Guy. He kidnapped them and later murdered them. He slit their throats. He stole the youth and life away from Abby and Libby.
And as far as media presence goes, there are more people here than normal throughout this trial, of course, and we're all just waiting now, waiting for a verdict, waiting for deliberations to pick back up again tomorrow morning starting at 9 o'clock. And I will be here and I will be waiting for news of what the jury has decided, if and when they decide. Now, coming up at ABC 57 News at 5:30, I will have a recap of the defense's closing arguments. But for now, live in Delphi, I'm Annie Kate, ABC 57 News. Yeah, Brian, verdict watch has officially started. The jury is deliberating, and all of us here, whether we're members of the community or members of the media, are just waiting for that verdict to come in. Now at 5, I told you about the closing arguments from the prosecution. Of course, the defense went next, giving their closing arguments in about an hour and 15 minutes.
No human, no matter how strong, could endure those conditions for that long without having a breakdown. Words from Defense Attorney Brad Rozzi in his closing argument in the trial of Richard Allen, referring to the months Allen spent in solitary confinement awaiting trial, a man innocent until proven guilty. He once again cast suspicion on Brad Weber, whose driveway runs under the Monon High Bridge Trail, once again questioned how the girls' bodies weren't found during search parties if they remained in place. But ultimately, the prosecution has the burden of proof in this case, and Rozzi concluded by looking at the investigation from a 10,000-foot viewpoint, he said. No one identified Richard Allen as the man on the bridge. No digital data connects Allen to the scene. There's no fingerprint, DNA, or trace material evidence to connect Allen. There's no forensic evidence. Rozzi said, quote, the state's timeline crumbled, and, quote, the magic bullet is nothing more than a tragic bullet. He showed photos of Allen in prison, his own client turning away in the courtroom, and likened his treatment to medieval torture. He said, quote, "We are asking you to set Richard Allen free and enter a verdict of not guilty."
Now, the jury has between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. to continue deliberations. They actually left this courthouse before 4 p.m. today, so we know that deliberations are going to pick right back up tomorrow, and I will be here until that verdict comes in, bringing it right to you on air and online at abc57.com. Coming up at 6, I'll talk about the state's rebuttal to closing arguments and what's next. Live in Delphi, Annie Kate, ABC 57 News. Yeah, Brian, you said it yourself. It's been a long time coming to get to this moment where the jury is now deliberating. The fate of Richard Allen is in the jury's hands, Brian. It's been 2 years since Allen has been arrested, nearly 8 years since Abby and Libby were killed back in 2017. This morning, of course, both the defense and prosecution got to give their closing arguments, and after the defense's closing argument, the state got to do a rebuttal. Prosecutor Nick McLeland did this in about 7 minutes. He said, quote, "There are 2 victims in this case, Abby and Libby, but they're more than victims. They're also heroes," end quote. That's because Libby knew to hit record on her cell phone, capturing that video of Bridge Guy. Abby's body hid Libby's phone, allowing police to find it, and that crucial clue. Now, Prosecutor Nick McLeland brought up something that Libby's grandmother, Becky Patty, said on day 1 of this 17-day trial. She said that Libby loved crime shows, and she one day looked at her grandma and said, "Grandma, one day I'm going to help the police solve crimes." Well, Nick McLeland said Libby did help police, and she did help them solve this crime. McLeland closed his rebuttal saying that she helped them and she brought Abby with them. Now we're all waiting. We're all on verdict watch. Take a look at your screen. This is the line. It's already been formed, strictly enforced by those in line, of course, to get into the courtroom when the jury is ready to read the verdict. We don't know when that will be. We know they're done deliberating for the day, and those deliberations will pick back up tomorrow at 9 a.m. Like I said, verdict watch has started. I will be here in Delphi until that verdict comes in. Live in Delphi, I'm Annie Kate, ABC 57 News.